Hello. Today I'm going to talk about how to improve solo practice in competitive Super Smash Bros., though these topics can be applied to any fighting game. I think solo practice is greatly overlooked and extremely powerful. The goal of this guide is to make the transition from learning to execution much quicker and more efficient, so you can speed up the rate at which you improve. You'll be familiarizing yourself with the options you learn, so you can spend less time asking how to do something, or how to deal with something, and more time deciding what to do. All topics discussed will be timestamped in the description. Before I start, a term I will be using a lot is ShadowBoxing. ShadowBoxing is essentially playing without an opponent. You practice doing the inputs, adding mix-ups, and reads as if you're playing against a real opponent. For example, if I want to shadowbox my corner pressure, I will go into training mode and pressure a stationary CPU as if it's a real opponent. It may seem weird, but this helps to make all options and mix-ups readily available in a real match, so the implementation happens much quicker. If you want to learn more, I will link to some great shadowboxing guides that go into the topic more in depth. I'm going to break this guide into 3 sections: solving problems, breaking habits, and reinforcing skill. Solving problems. Smash has a ton of characters that have their own pool of options and tools that allow them to control the pace of a match. It is important to understand their options and your counterplay to them. If you struggle against a certain character, and more importantly, dealing with one or more of their tools, this section will greatly help you. For this section, I'll be using an example of Pikachu Thunder Jolt. Pikachu Thunder Jolt is an extremely powerful tool that forces the opponent to choose an option to avoid it, and each of these options has their own counterplay from the Pikachu. This is where players may struggle dealing with Thunder Jolt, as if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy for the Pikachu player to pick up on your defensive habits and deal a ton of damage. The first step is to learn your best options to deal with it. This can be done through labbing or through VOD analysis. As we see here, Cosmos chooses between jumping over the Thunder Jolt or attacking the Thunder Jolt head on. You're going to want to write these down. Now, you can't just limit yourself to these few options, as they can be quickly picked up on. Figure out mix-ups around these options so you don't develop a basic flowchart. As an Inkling player, I know if I'm attacking over the Thunder Jolt, I can attack Pikachu head on with the bear, as it will be safe. I can jump back to a bait an option, and I can Tomahawk. If I'm attacking the Thunder Jolt itself, I know I can also fade back, dash back, or shield. Each of these mix-ups can help cover more counterplay from the Pikachu. With any character you struggle with, say Lucina's Say Fair, just learn your options to deal with it, as well as the mix-ups around them. Now, this next step is very important, and is where solo practice shines. You need to go into training mode and shadowbox doing all of the options you wrote down. In our case, I'll practice fading in with bears, doing a standing bear to punish the Thunder Jolt, and all the mix-ups around it. It's important to do all these options out of dash dances, jumps, etc. We want to familiarize ourselves with the options as much as we can. I recommend listening to a song and doing these for the duration of it, switching between each of the mix-ups and options. Now, the final step is execution. If you have a local player of this character, play friendlies with them. Your focus should now be on choosing which options to use based on your reads and less on what to do. If you don't have a local player of this character, you will still be more prepared when you have to face this character in bracket. Now, this can go much farther than just dealing with a character. If you struggle getting out of the corner, learn the options and practice them. If you struggle recovering, just practice the options. It may seem repetitive, but the more we can familiarize ourselves with the options, the more prepared we will be. We can spend more of our time playing with other people, finding more holes to fix, and less dealing with the same issues. This next section will be on breaking habits. This is very important, as when somebody points out a habit, they will often tell you to just stop doing it. But every habit has a source, and if you don't fix it at the source, it can easily come back and you won't improve. I'll give the example of rolling in from the corner. This is a common habit from lower level players. If you aren't sure of any of your habits, watch your VODs and find points where you do the same thing in neutral, advantage, and disadvantage. I'll be making a video on VOD analysis soon. A lot of the time, the source of the problem is usually the player not knowing or isn't confident in their options. In our rolling habit case, we just aren't confident in getting out of the corner any other way. There are great guides on YouTube, I'll link to them in the description, that go over a ton of aspects of the game. Find one related to your problem and learn the options. If you can't find tutorials, watch high-level VODs and see what they do. Just like the last section, we're going to shadowbox doing all of these options. In our case, I can practice run-up shielding, dash dancing, and much more. Familiarize yourself as best as you can, so when you face the situation again, you know what to do, and you won't fall back on old habits. The transition from learning to execution will be much quicker. These habits can be anything. Say I approach the same way as Wolf. I'll learn my options and mix around them, and I'll shadowbox them, so in a real match, I'm more comfortable doing them. If you have any habits you are struggling with, can't find much information on them, ask character discords, other players, or leave a comment and I'll answer as many questions as I can. Finally, I'll be going over reinforcing skill. This is a very important step in any fighting game. Smash Ultimate gets a lot of slack for being technically easy, but it's still very important to reinforce and practice everything you learn. Training mode can be used for much more than just combos. Shadowboxing your spacing, pressures, mix-ups, and baits can be very important. I recommend making a schedule, making a practice routine, and mixing in previous aspects of the guide to learn at the same time. If you don't reinforce what you've learned, you will fall back onto old habits and feel lost. I personally set aside 30 minutes every day to every other day to practice my spacing, movement, pressure, and mix-ups, as these are all important as an Inkling player. I focus on aggression, so I'll practice all my mix-ups around that, such as overshooting and shield pressure, so in a real match they are fresh in my mind. If you have any questions as to what you should practice, once again ask character discords, use YouTube guides, or leave a comment in the description, and I'll answer all the questions I can.